بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وأفضل الصلاة وأتم التسليم على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا علما. أسأل الله تبارك وتعالى أن يجعل نياتنا خالصة لوجهه الكريم. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. We'll continue in reading in our book Al-Sunna al-Asha'ira. Al-Sunna, who are the Asharis. We reached up to Al-Khilaf al-Aqidah, to the section which is chapter number 6 on page 91 in your English book, where it talks about disagreements and differences of opinion in the area of the creed, in matters of the Islamic doctrine. I want to share something quickly before we start. And I think it's important to keep in mind. Though we may sometimes, or more times than not, be forthright in speaking about the issues of the creed, identifying who are Ahl-Sunnah, meaning the Asharis and the Maturidis, and we are very direct in mentioning those who deviate from the creed of Ahl-Sunnati wal Jama'ah. You must keep in mind that this is not personal. What do I mean it's not personal? The knowledge that we teach is not about individuals. Every individual could be guided or could be misguided. Could be correct, it could be incorrect. Could be a believer or could be a disbeliever. But the knowledge of the religion is the same no matter the condition of people. So we should stick to the issues and never make it personal. When we're learning, stick to the issue, right? So even if the issue of the religious rulings is for you, say, Alhamdulillah, I'm in compliance. If it is against you, then say, I am wrong and I need to correct myself. Once you understand that you are outside of the religious boundaries, whether that is in creed or practice or spirituality. But if you take the things personal, like someone's attacking you or someone speaking directly about you, you're not even going to pay attention to what's being said. You're going to be focusing on your ego. And we should all remember we're not that important. None of us. The world, the deen, was here before us, will be here after we're gone. So we're not that important. Not saying we're not important at all, and that we don't play a significant role in existence. But it's not about us, right? Truth was established so that the people before us could be guided aright. Truth still needs to be established so that the people during our time will be guided aright. Truth will need to be established in the future, so the people in the future will be guided right into the day of judgment. So the deen, the religious knowledge, doesn't center around any individual among us. I hope this point is understood well and received well. The truth is not about men or women, right? It's not how we determine the truth. The truth is the truth without men or women, or people for that matter. The truth is the truth. And we, as men and women, have to adhere to the truth and avoid falsehood. That's all it's about. Nothing more, nothing less. May Allah make us among the people of truth. Bismillah. We're on page 91. Let us begin.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wa salatu wa salamu ala Rasulillah. The author, may Allah Ta'ala have mercy on him, said, Al-Sunna, the Asharis, the testimony and proofs of the scholars. Chapter 6. Disagreements in matters of doctrine. Is it true that every disagreement in matters of doctrine, be it in the fundamental tenets or in subsidiary issues, results in disbelief or misguidance, or charges of blameworthy innovation and corruption?
So here, in the sciences of belief, in ilm al-aqidah, the science of doctrine or the creed, you have foundational issues and you have issues that are details, right? And when we think about these issues, the outcome of them, if we're in the right, is to be on the correct creed of Islam. If we're wrong, sometimes, depending the issue, it reaches the level of al-kufr, disbelief. Sometimes it's al-dalala, misguidance. Sometimes it is al-bid'ah, innovation. And sometimes it is fisq, right? It is corruption. So when we talk about these issues, they are serious issues. The most severe kufr, and then to the least, moral corruption, and everything in between. So this is telling us that when we study the issues of aqidah, it is something that is serious. Now,
did the companions or scholars from the pious predecessors ever disagree about matters of doctrine? Did any of their disagreements in that lead to charges of misguidance and corruption? In answering these questions, we will make clear the mistake of those who are reckless in their accusations of misguidance against the Asharis, Maturidis, and the scholars and notables of this ummah, in addition to all who oppose them without sound knowledge or narration.
Here we find in our time where the Asharis and Maturidis are considered misguided, and whoever follows their way, like the great scholars and notable pious people of this nation, have been charged with misguidance, right? And this is a mistake that many have fallen into. Some of them knowingly fallen into it, and some of them unwittingly falling into it. Now,
considering the state of the Ummah and its suffering and division that breaks the hearts of every jealousy protective person, it would have been more fitting.
Person who is jealous for the matters of the religion.
It would have been more fitting for them to consider these disagreements, if any are found, in the best possible light, and in a manner commensurate with the expansive breadth of this religion. It is more fitting that excuses are found as much as possible, so as not to increase the splitting and disunity of the Ummah and assist its enemies against it, such as the one who lost his strength after having it.
Here, there's a thing about it. When people differ, when there are disagreements, especially among those who claim to be Muslim, we should always look for the best possible interpretation of that difference. and look for ways to bring the hearts together when possible and not further divide them.
Creed, as such, is divided into two categories: fundamental tenets and subsidiary issues.
So there's called usul and furu'. So you have the usul, the foundational things in aqidah, and then you have al-furu', which are the detailed matters of the creed. Now,
The fundamental tenets are further divided into the fundamentals of the religion and the fundamentals of the way of Al-Sunna wal Jama'ah.
mm,
The fundamentals of the religion include belief in Allah Ta'ala's existence, His oneness, His everlastingness, His pre-eternality, belief
which
in the
are among the obligatory attributes that every morally responsible individual must know. And they are, as mentioned by the scholars of Al-Sunna wal Jama'ah, 20, and they can be summarized into 13. Among them is Al-Wujud, Al-Wahdaniya, Al-Baqa, and Al-Qidam. Al-Qidam.
belief in the contingency of the universe, which is everything besides Allah Ta'ala among existence.
Meaning that everything that exists other than Allah is hadith, is created. It came from the state of non-existence into the state of existence, which is a core essential belief of the religion.
The veracity of the messengers and prophets, and so on. There is no disagreement that whoever goes against these matters has left the religion, because these matters represent the foundations upon which the religion is built.
And so the one who disagrees in these issues, he is a disbeliever with no doubt by consensus. The one who says Allah does not exist, or that Allah has a partner, or that Allah will come to an end, or that Allah has a beginning, or that the world is eternal without a beginning, this person is a disbeliever.
Those who go against these beliefs include the adherents to other religions and ways, such as the Jews, the Christians, and Zoroastrians, the Buddhists, etc.
Where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, Inna dina inda Allahi al-Islam, that the religion that is accepted by Allah is al-Islam. وَمَنْ يَبْتَغِي غَيْرَ الْإِسْلَامِ دِينًا فَلَا يُقْبَلَ مِنْهُ وَهُوَ فِي الْآخِرَةِ مِنَ الْخَاسِرِينَ. And whoever desires a religion other than Islam, it will never be accepted. In the hereafter, they will be among the losers.
In Rawda at Talibin, Imam al-Nawawi, may Allah Ta'ala have mercy upon him, quoted Imam al-Mutawali as saying, Mutawali.
Road to the Talibin is one of the major books of the Shafi'i school. It is a summary of Fathul Aziz by Imam al-Rafi'i.
Whoever believes in the eternality of the world or the contingency of the Maker, Allah Ta'ala, or negates what is affirmed for the pre-eternal, Allah Ta'ala, by consensus, such as Him being all-knowing and all-powerful, or affirms for Him what is negated by consensus, such as colors, or affirms that He is connected or disconnected, then he is a disbeliever.
Here, you'll notice something that Imam al-Nawawi, he mentioned from Imam al-Mutawali, that Allah is named Al-Qadim. So he said, whoever believes that the world is eternal, or that the Creator is created, or he negates what is confirmed to be attributed to Al-Qadim, the Eternal One, by consensus, is a disbeliever. He mentioned that Allah is Al-Qadim. If you remember from our studying in the Al-Aqidah, Imam al-Tahawi said Allah is Qadimun bilabtida. He is the one who has no beginning. He's eternal without a beginning. And we mentioned that Ibn Abi al-Iz, in his refutation of Imam al-Tahawi, which he called a commentary, he said that it's not permissible to name Allah Al-Qadim. Here, Imam al-Nawawi, Imam al-Mutawali, and others already have mentioned that it is permissible to call Allah Al-Qadim, as the great Hafiz Muhammad Murtada al-Zabidi mentioned in his book Ithaf al-Sadat al-Muttaqeen, Bisharh Ihya Ulumuddin, that the scholars have complete agreement on the permissibility of naming Allah Al-Qadim.
Similarly, whoever denies the rational
Al-Ittisal wal-Infisal, being connected and disconnected, meaning Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not connected to the world or disconnected, because connection and disconnection is attributes of created things, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is clear of any attribute of created things. Hence, Allah is not connected to the world or disconnected to the world.
Similarly, whoever denies the rational possibility of messengers being sent, or rejects the prophethood of a particular prophet among the prophets, may prayers and salutations be upon them, or belies him or rejects a single verse from the Quran that is considered a verse by consensus, or adds a single word to the Quran, or believes that it is from it, or insults a prophet or belittles him, or declares licit that which is unlawful by consensus, such as alcohol, fornication, homophilia, or who declares unlawful that which is lawful by consensus, or denies the obligation of that which is obligatory by consensus, such as a single unit from the five obligatory prayers, or believes in the obligation of something that is not an obligation by consensus, such as a sixth obligatory prayer or fasting in the month of Shawwal,
Mm.
or who ascribes vileness, adultery to Aisha radiallahu anha, or makes a claim to prophecy after our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, or believes in someone who makes that false claim, or if he glorifies an idol by prostrating to it or seeks to draw close to it by sacrificing an animal in its name. All of this is disbelief.
Here, so you can see that Imam An-Nawawi, he mentioned that certain beliefs, because all of these are from the essentials, foundational matters of the belief, if one believes them by the mere belief in that, that person would become a disbeliever. And to give you how the scholars wrote in this, they said that this is a ridda. So Imam An-Nawawi, he mentioned this in the chapter or the book of apostasy, in his book Rawd al-Talibin, and he mentioned that apostasy occurs in three ways: beliefs in the heart, blasphemous beliefs in the heart, blasphemous actions with the body, and blasphemous statements with the tongue. If one falls in any of those three categories of blasphemous matters, then one would become a disbeliever. Now,
Before we move on and discuss the fundamentals of the way of Al-Sunna wal Jama'ah, we must mention an issue that is extremely dangerous, namely the statement of Imam al-Mutawalli, or affirms that he is connected or disconnected. Here, he made the affirmation of connection or disconnection one of the issues that entails disbelief, and Imam al-Nawawi agreed with him.
here you notice, so he has this statement, and Imam al-Nawawi rahimahullah agreed with it, as he mentioned in his book. Here, that's something you should pay attention, because all of us in general are avid readers of the books of Imam An-Nawawi, whether it is the 40 Hadith, whether it is Riyad al-Salihin or Al-Adhkar or Tibyan fi Adab al-Hamalat al-Quran, all of these books of Imam An-Nawawi, Sharh Sahih Muslim, Al-Minhaj, Al-Majmu', all of these major books of Imam An-Nawawi, that Imam An-Nawawi had the same beliefs that apostasy occurs. People can say they're Muslim, but believe something or do something or say something that takes them out of Islam. Not only Imam An-Nawawi, from the Shafi'is, other scholars from the Hanafi and the Maliki and the Hanbali school. In every school, you have the chapters of apostasy, which deal with those different categories of beliefs or actions or statements which takes one out of Islam.
Connection and disconnection are the qualities of being either inside or outside of something. Ahl Sunnah declare Allah Ta'ala transcendent above being qualified by either of the two. No consideration should be given to anyone who opposes this belief, basing his view on ignorance of the necessary
Go back.
implications.
Something went wrong. Go back to Mutawali.
To what I just read, connection and disconnection.
No, before. And now we
Before we
agree with him.
before we move on,
And now we agreed with him. That's at the end.
yes, that's the end.
Mm. Uh, there should be after that and before the next paragraph some words. It says سيأتي معنا أقوال العلماء. So what should come after this? I'll just translate for you. The author is going to mention some statements of the scholars that agree with Imam al-Nawawi and Imam al-Tawali in this issue. And they mention that Allah is divinely transcendent from connection and disconnection, and from a place, and from a location, and from addiction, and from a direction, and everything that does not befit him from the attributes of created things. Did you follow me in that? That's
Step
that's in
right
the
there.
original book that is missing in the English translation. So after he says, and now we agree with him, then the author continued. He said, we shall mention statements of the scholars that agree with them in this, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is divinely transcendent, above connection, disconnection, place, location, direction, and everything that does not befit him among the attributes of created things. If you got it? Did you get all that, reader?
Yes.
Okay,
So
so
the
read
author will
back.
mention
Okay, yeah.
the author will mention statements from the scholars that agree with An-Nawawi in this. Allah Ta'ala is
Nawawi
transcendent.
and al-Mutawali.
An-Nawawi and Al-Mutawali. Allah Ta'ala is transcendent above connection and disconnection, place, location, and everything that does not befit him in created
Place, location, direction,
direction.
الاتصال والانفصال والمكان والحيز والجهة. Right? And after direction and everything that does not, go ahead,
And everything that does not befit him in created things.
among
Among created
attributes
things.
of created things. Among attributes, من صفة المخلوقين. Among the attributes of created things.
Among the attributes of created things.
Now, go ahead. Connection and disconnection.
Connection and disconnection are the qualities of being either inside or outside of something. Al-Sunna declare Allah Ta'ala transcendent above being qualified by either of the two. No consideration should be given to anyone who opposes this belief, basing his view on ignorance of the necessary implications of the belief in Allah Ta'ala being either inside or outside of the universe, or his lack of submission to its implications.
And here, this is the belief of Al-Wahhabiyya, that they say Allah is outside of the world, disconnected from the world, which would make between Allah and His creation al-musafa. Al-musafa is direct distance, and this is among the things that is not valid to believe about Allah.
This issue is of dire importance and seriousness. Were it not for our knowledge that those who object to the Ash'aris do not understand this issue correctly, we would not have brought it up here because of its detail. However, with that, we will try to avoid going into finer points, and we will suffice with a general explanation and cite the statements of the scholars who have warned against describing Allah Ta'ala with either of these two descriptions.
Which is al-ittisal wal-infisal, being connected to the world or disconnected. Now,
Whoever wishes to learn more about this may refer to the appropriate books of doctrine that discuss it.
the
We
books of
often read
Aqidah of Ahl-Sunnati wal Jama'ah, the more detailed books, they discuss this issue.
We often read or hear people describe Allah Ta'ala the Exalted saying, He is separate from his creation with his essence. If
Only.
what is meant by separation here
Says
is a
da'inun min khalqihi bi dhatihi, right? They say that Allah is separate from his creation with his essence, with his self, which is la hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. Mm.
if what is meant here by separation, if what is meant by separation here is a distinction and negation of indwelling, hulul, and union, ittihad, then it is undoubtedly true, and it is also the doctrine of Al-Sunna wal Jama'ah from the Salaf and the latter-day scholars.
Meaning Allah does not indwell in his creation, nor does he unite with his creation. So if one said, and they meant by ba'inun and khalqihi, the bidatihi is a problem. Ba'inun min khalqihi, and they meant that, this is what is understood from Al-Sunna. If they mean by that Allah does not indwell in his creation, nor does he unify with his creation.
And this is what is meant by the expression when it is reported from any of them. On the other hand, if what is meant by this statement is actual physical separation, then the one who says this has fallen into an enormity. Separation with this meaning implies that the one described with it accepts a locus and
Separation, be that with his self, right? Separation, be that. And this word, you're going to find this in a lot of the books of Al-Mujassima. They say be dhatihi, right? Which means right, by his self, meaning Allah's self is outside of the creation. Or they say he sat on a throne or he rose above the throne, be dhatihi. That means a way of saying literally, right? Which is not valid to believe. So this is what is being mentioned here. Mm-hmm.
separation with this meaning implies that the one described
This
with
meaning by himself, be dhatihi. Put in your separation by himself, meaning be dhatihi, because that's the point. Separation and what is entailed, be dhatihi, by his self. This is a major, major problem. When that is added, it's bad without being added, but when it's added, it becomes an explicit blasphemous statement.
separation by his self.
Mm-hmm.
This meaning implies that the one described with it accepts a locus and a direction, and Allah Ta'ala, the Exalted, is transcendent above that.
Right. So if you say by itself, that means that Allah is in a direction or in a location. And Allah is clear from al-mahal and al-jiha or al-makan. Go ahead.
Furthermore, the wording with his essence is not recorded in either.
With his essence is what I mean by himself, be dhatihi. So that means the reality of Allah.
The wording with his self is not recorded in either the book, the Sunnah, or upon the tongue of any of the companions or followers.
And here the point, for sometimes they will say, this is in the Quran. Oh, no, we follow the Quran and Sunnah, and then you find them adding these words, be dhatihi. And this is not related from the Quran or the Sunnah or the companions or their followers. They didn't say Allah is be dhatihi above the throne, or be dhatihi descends, or be dhatihi is connected or disconnected from the world. They didn't add that.
Those sayings attributed to some of the Salaf in which they said, he is distinct with his essence and he is distinct from his creation are understood as an affirmation of distinction and a negation of mixing with the creation. This meaning is correct, but one must be aware that each word takes on a different meaning when co-joined with another word. For instance,
which is context. The way words are being used in context is very important.
For instance, when the phrase with his essence is mentioned along with separation distinction, two meanings are understood. The first meaning, which is permissible to say regarding Allah, the Exalted, is is distinction and negation of admixture and indwelling. The second meaning, which is forbidden to say unrestrictedly regarding Allah Ta'ala the Exalted, is disconnectedness and being outside. The same cannot be said regarding rising, istiwa, descent, nuzul, coming, ityan, and so on, because when the phrase with his essence is mentioned alongside these or similar expressions, their meanings are then restricted to a corporeal or sense perception meaning, hissi jasmani. So, for instance, it should not be said that he rose with his essence, descends with his essence,
استوى بذاته. Mhm. Or ينزل بذاته.
or
Or
comes with his,
يجيء بذاته. Because these attributes, when you add بذاته, making them literal. And this is not the correct belief of Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah.
essence, and then concluded with the disclaimer, not like our rising, descent, or coming, as that is a clear contradiction. Ibn al-Zawzi, may
Ibn
Allah,
al-Jawzi,
Jawzi,
Abdurrahman, it says Zawzi?
Jawzi,
Yeah, Jawzi, Ibn
Jaw.
Jawzi. He was a great Hanbali scholar, Abdurrahman ibn Jawzi. Mm.
May Allah Ta'ala have mercy upon him, said, whoever says he rose with his essence has made him, Allah Ta'ala, the object of sense perception.
Mm. Meaning
Al-Hafid
that which can be perceived by the senses, because it became physical by saying that.
al-Dahabi, may Allah Ta'ala have mercy upon him, said in his biographical notice on Ibn al-Zarhuni,
Az-Zaghuni.
sorry. We have previously mentioned that the phrase with his essence is superfluous and it troubles the soul. Leaving it is more fitting and Allah Ta'ala knows best.
Mm.
Al-Hafid ibn Hajar al-Asqalani, may Allah Ta'ala have mercy upon him, said in his commentary on the hadith, when one of you stands up to pray, he is in intimate conversation with his Lord, or alternatively, his Lord is between him and the Qibla. This contains a refutation against the one who claims that he, Allah Ta'ala, is above the throne with his essence.
And here he said, وفيه أي الحديث الرد على من زعم أنه على العرش بذاته. So Imam Al-Hafiz ibn Hajar al-Asqalani clearly refutes this, the great Hafiz, Amir al-Mu'mineen fil Hadith, that to say that Allah is on the throne with himself or in by his that, this is totally rejected by Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah. Now,
Al-Hafid al-Dhahabi said in his book Al-Ulu, after citing the statement of Yahya ibn Ammar, nay, we say
Yahya ibn Ammar.
ibn Ammar, nay, we say that he is with his essence above the throne and his knowledge encompasses everything. Your statement with his essence is from your own bag. He also said in his biographical entry,
Pull that out your pocket. Subhanallah. No one said, هو بذاته على العرش. لا إله إلا الله. نعم.
he also said in his biographical entry on Al-Hafid Abu Qasim,
Qasim.
okay, Ismail ibn Muhammad al-Taymi, I say, the correct position is to withhold from expressing such things, for there is no divine text mentioning it. And even if we assume that its meaning is correct, it is not for us to utter anything that Allah Ta'ala has not given permission for, out of fear that something of blameworthy innovation will enter the heart. O Allah Ta'ala, safeguard our faith for us.
No. Ameen.
Imam al-Dhahabi's statement about assuming its meaning is correct and is understood in light of the correct meaning of the phrase with his essence that was used by Yahya ibn Ammar, not the outwardly apparent meaning of it that first appears to the mind.
And you can remember Imam al-Nawawi when he was talking about the hadith al-Jariyah, the hadith of the slave girl. He said the meaning, the outward literal meaning that rushes to our mind is not the intended meaning. So here you have a Dhabi mentioning this, indicating this, as well as when it comes to these attributes that are mutashabih, as well as Sayyidina al-Imam al-Nawawi, and both of them were hufadh of hadith, master memorizers of hadith.
Imam Badr ad-Din ibn Jama'ah. May
Brother
Allah
Ibn
Ta'ala.
Jama'ah, he's the author of the book, The Etiquette of the Learner, or the Student, yes.
May Allah Ta'ala have mercy upon him, said, whoever believes that the rising istiwa with respect to him, Allah Ta'ala the Exalted, is understood like the qualities of the contingent beings and says, he rose with his essence, or says, he rose in reality, haqiqatan, then he has innovated this extraneous expression that is neither affirmed in the Sunnah nor reported from any of the Imams that are followed.
And this is important because when you read in the books of those scholars of the people of Salafiyya or Al-Wahhabiyya, you're going to find this abundant in their works. Bidhatihi, haqiqatan, ala dhahiriha, like all of these literal, with his essence, with his self, in reality, which is all indications to physical or sensory meanings. May Allah protect us from that.
Al-Hafid al-Dhahabi said in Al-Ulul, they criticize him, Ibn Abi Zayd al-Qayrawani, for
Yeah,
his
he is the author of the book of called Ar-Risala in the Maliki school. And there is a statement in there and where this term bidhatihi is mentioned in relation to Allah's istiwa al-arsh.
with his essence, so would that he had left it out.
Mm.
Now we are most certain that Imam Ibn Abi Zayd al-Qayrawani, Qaywa, sorry,
Qayrawani.
sorry, did
Qayrawani.
not intend by this phrase. If it is authentically from him, the meaning that some
Note the
intend.
footnote, if it is authentic. He says, in idha sahat anhu. So even this term bidhatihi, our scholars, they didn't confirm actually that this was really from him. Imam al-Kawthari mentioned it. Here, read that note.
The erudite al-Kawthari, may Allah Ta'ala have mercy upon him,
Sheikh Muhammad Zahid al-Kawthari, rahimahullah ta'ala,
said in his footnote to Tabian Kadhib al-Muftari,
which is a book written by Ibn Asakir, the great hadith scholar. Now,
the commentators on his Risala concur that this phrase is either interpolated or understood as a nominative phrase, rafa, in other words, upon the throne, glorious in his essence, Yal-Arshi al-Majid bi-Thatihi, as opposed to describing the throne as glorious and affirming that he is above it with his essence. Al-Arshi al-Majid bi-Thatihi. The meaning that some intend.
Some of them believe that this was put in his book, not by him.
The meaning that some intend, and this is evident from the statements of those who wrote commentaries on his book. It was an Ashari, and he loved Imam Abu al-Hasan, as is clear from his response.
He was an Ashari, not it was an Ashari.
I'm sorry.
وهو أشعري محب للإمام أبي الحسن كما هو واضح من جوابه لمن لامه في حبه. So he was an Ash'ari, meaning Ibn Abi Zayd.
He wasn't
You said
Ashari.
You said it, or there was a mistake? It said it?
No, it was me. I apologize.
Okay. He was.
He
Right.
was an Ashari. Yes, he.
Let me see. Okay,
Page
yeah.
96 at the top.
Yes, okay. He was an Ash'ari.
And he loved Imam Abu al-Hasan, as is clear from his response to someone who criticized him for his love for him. He said, Al-Ashari is no more than a man who is well known for refuting the people of innovation and the Qadariyah and the Jahmis, and who holds firm to the Sunnah. At-Taj as-Subki mentioned him among the second tier of Asharis that went unmentioned in Al-Hafid ibn Asakir's book, Tabyin Kadhib al-Muftari.
Right. So even as Subki mentioned him among the Asha'ira in his book Tabaqat al-Shafi'iyyat al-Kubra, which he mentioned the great Shafi'i scholars. Now, because Ibn Asakir was before Tajuddin al-Subki. Mm.
Imam Ibn Abdul Bar, may
And he
Allah
was
Ta'ala,
Maliki as well.
may Allah Ta'ala have mercy upon him, said, and a group ascribed to the Sunnah said that he, the Exalted, descends with his essence. This statement is
Yanzilu bidhatihi. Yanzilu bidhati. You remember the hadith in Sahih Muslim where the Prophet says, Inna Rabbana tabaraka wa ta'ala yanzilu, right? Uh, so this term yanzilu, uh, as Imam Malik said in one narration, that is the descent of his mercy, and other narrations mention it is the descent of the angel who calls out. Mm,
This statement is rejected because he, exalted in his mention, is not a locus for movement, and he has nothing from the signs characteristic of the creation.
mm.
He also
So
said,
here, Ibn Abdul Bar says that harakat, movements, cannot be attributed to Allah. So descent with his self, meaning he moves, this is not permissible to attribute to Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala. Now,
he also said in his refutation against someone who said that he descends with his essence. This is rejected, laysa bi shay'in, according to the people of understanding among Al-Sunna, because it is a modality, kayfiyya, and they flee from that because it is only suitable for something that is directly encompassed, and Allah Ta'ala the Exalted is transcendent above that.
here, see, he said, ليس هذا بشيء عند أهل الفم من أهل السنة لأن هذا كيفية, right? It's modality and wholeness, and that is negated about Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala. Now, and Allah is clear from anything that would indicate a how for him or modality, subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now,
Al-Hafid al-Dhahabi said in his biographical entry of Qutah, also his statement, and your Lord comes and exalts.
وَجَاءَ رَبُّكَ. Mm,
We say, he comes and he descends without saying he descends with his essence, just as we do not say he descends with his knowledge. Nay, we remain silent and do not seek to be more eloquent than the Messenger of Allah Ta'ala, sallallahu
Allah.
alayhi wasallam, using innovative expressions, and Allah Ta'ala knows best.
And this is tafweed. We say what Allah mentioned, وَجَاءَ رَبُّكَ, or the Prophet mentioned, يَنزِلُ رَبَّنَا, and we stop. Bila kayf, without a how. Mm.
All of this shows that the phrase with his essence is not established from the pious predecessors of this ummah, and that it is rejected by both the intellect and the divine text. What
Mm.
stronger proof can there be as the statements of the Imams only carry one possible meaning? Abu al Hassan ibn al Munadi, may Allah Ta'ala have mercy upon him, said, we do not disagree that nothing of his creation can be over the compeller, al Jabr, under any circumstance. And we do not disagree that he does not indwell with anything, with his being remaining inseparable therefrom, because if he were to indwell in it, he would be from it.
Mm.
Ibn al-Munadi's statement, and we do not disagree that he does not indwell with anything with his being remaining inseparable therefrom, is exactly what the scholars mean when they say that Allah Ta'ala, the Exalted, is not described with connection or disconnection or being inside or outside.
Right, because that means Allah would be indwelling, and that's hulul in his creation, and this is not befitting. Mm.
Imam Munadi is Imam Ahmed ibn Jafar, the reciter and hadith master. Imam al-Dhahabi said, Al-Danis said concerning him, a noble reciter, a master to the utmost. He was eloquent in speech and knowledgeable about the reports. He was a reliable reference in the knowledge of Arabic, and he was a Sunni, reliable and trustworthy. The
Yeah.
erudite scholar Ibn Khaldun, may Allah Ta'ala have mercy upon him,
Mhm.
said in his Muqaddam,
Muqaddimah, which
Muqaddimah,
is the introduction in history. Mm.
There often occurs, in the words of the people of doctrine from the scholars of hadith and jurisprudence, that Allah Ta'ala the Exalted is separate from His creation, and there often occurs, in the words of the scholastic theologians, that He is neither separate nor connected to the world, and there often occurs, in the words of the philosophers, that He is neither inside of the universe nor outside of it. Here we shall clarify the details of these positions and explain the reality of each one so their meanings become clear. The word separation, mubayyana, contains two meanings: separation in a direction and boundary, and it stands opposite of connection, istisal. This
Ittisal.
juxtaposition,
Ittisal.
ittisal, excuse me. This juxtaposition is sensed when it, separation, is restricted to a place, either explicitly, which is anthropomorphism, taj,
Tajsim.
tajsim, or implicitly, which is resemblance, tashbih, on account of the
So
belief
even
universal.
if you explicitly say that, that is tajsim, that is giving Allah bodily attributes. To what you're saying necessitates that, that is tashbih, which is liking Allah to His creation, both of which are negated by Al-Sunna.
Which is resemblance, tashbih, on account of the belief in a direction for Allah Ta'ala. Likes of that,
To ascribe Allah with al-jismiya or al-jiha is both invalid. Al-jismiya, to give Allah bodily attributes, or to ascribe to Allah a direction, which is a tashbih.
the likes of that have been transmitted from some of the scholars of the Salaf, in which separation is explicitly mentioned. However, it carries a different meaning than this. It is for this reason the scholastic theologians denied this separation. They said, it should not be said that the Creator is separate from His creation or connected to them, because that only implies to things restricted by spatial boundaries.
Mhm.
As for the statement that a locus is either described with something or its opposite is contradictory, that is first conditioned upon that thing accepting that quality. But when that is rationally impossible, it is not the case. Nay, it is possible for that thing to be free of that thing and its opposite, just as it is said regarding a solid inanimate object. It is neither knowing nor ignorant, neither powerful nor incapable, and neither literate nor illiterate.
Right.
For
So you don't take an inanimate like a stone, or I say this eyeglass case. I said, is it knowledgeable or ignorant? Is it strong or weak? Can it write or is it illiterate? You'll say these are attributes that don't apply to the glass case. Now, if you ask me if it's dark or light or heavy or light, right? Long or short, wide or narrow, these are applicable attributes. Hence, there are attributes that you cannot apply to Allah. They are mustahil lahu ta'ala. They are to mustahil alayhi ta'ala. They are impossible to attribute to him. And those are among them. Naam.
this description of separation to apply, that which is described with it must be in a direction, according to what is implied in its indication, and the Creator is divinely transcendent above that. This
Subhan.
was mentioned by Ibn al-Tilmisani in his commentary on Imam al-Haramain's Al-Luma. He said,
It's a book in Ilm al-Kalam and Aqidah written by Imam al-Juwayni. Imam al-Haramain is Imam al-Juwayni, the Sheikh of Imam al-Ghazali. Radiyallahu ta'ala anhu. Naam.
it should not be said that the Creator is separate from the universe or connected to it, and neither should it be said that He is inside of it or outside of it. The second meaning of separation is distinction and dissimilarity. It is said that the Creator is distinct in His essence, His being, His existence, and His attributes. Distinction here stands opposite of union, admixture, and blending. This belief in distinction is the doctrine of the people of truth entirely, from the majority of the Salaf, the scholars of the sacred laws, the theologians, and the early Sufis, such as those mentioned in the epistle of Imam al-Qushayri and those who followed their way.
Imam al-Qushayri is the author of Al-Risalat al-Qushayriya fi Tasawwuf. It is one of the earliest books and a fundamental text in the science of Tasawwuf or Sufism.
Ibn al-Jawzi may Allah Ta'ala have mercy upon him, said,
Yeah.
"That is because proximity and separation are from the necessary qualities of that which is contained within boundaries, and it is established that gathering and separation are from the necessary qualities of what is contained in a boundary. But the real, Azza wa Jal, cannot be described with having boundaries. Likewise, it should be said that he is neither inside nor outside of the world, because being inside or outside of something is one of the necessary qualities of something contained within boundaries. Likewise,
Meaning boundaries, locations. Mhm.
Likewise with movement and quiescence, and all other
Movement,
accidental
haraka wa sukun, movement and rest.
and all other
What's
accidental
the big
qualities.
word? I'm gonna learn me a new word. What is it?
Quiescence
Quiescence. Where is it at? Movement and quiescence.
chapter,
Quiescence means stillness, right?
I'm not sure. I could look it up.
Yeah, look it up real quick. That was a new word. It can sound smart. it's, it's movement, haraka wa sukun, movement and stillness, or being at rest.
And all
We just discovered a new word. We're trying to find the meaning in English. So I know the word in Arabic. I don't know what it means in English.
a state of period of inactivity or dormancy.
Yeah, stillness. Okay, good.
And all other accidental qualities that are particular to substances. The words of these people, the anthropomorphists, are based upon the sensory, and the sensory has caused them to succumb to corporealism and confusion.
MashaAllah, which is tashbih, right? I'll tell you a funny story. One of my teachers, he had a book on following a madhab, why it's obligatory to follow a madhab in English. And he was reading it, and it was a lot of big words. It was written, it was like a small treatise. It was written, translated by Sheikh Abdul Hakim Murad, right? Or Timothy Winter. He got these big old, like Cambridge and Oxford, it's very high English, rich British vocabulary. So the Sheikh was reading, he couldn't understand. And he was trying to teach somebody this book in English about following the madhab. So he brought the book to me. He said, I need you to explain this to me. And I started reading it, and the word was so big. I said, Sheikh, just give me the original text. I'll just translate the book because I can't understand this. I'll be better off in Arabic. His words was like, all of them seemed like they had like 26 letters. I said, SubhanAllah. It was all English. I didn't understand nothing he was talking about. His words, his vocabulary was so rich, and the words were so big. I never heard most of them. I said, SubhanAllah. So I got the book in Arabic, and then I was just translating myself. And Sheikh was like, wow, why he made it so difficult? I said, he wasn't writing for us, Sheikh. He was writing for professors. That's what it felt like, man. I'm telling you, so many big, huge, long words. SubhanAllah. But that's levels. There's levels to this. Levels to this, even in language. Now, go ahead.
Based on their belief that Allah Ta'ala is separate from His creation with His essence, which is a physical sensory separation, they affirmed a limit for Him, subhanahu wa ta'ala. And based upon that, they affirmed a direction for Him, i.e., that Allah Ta'ala is physically above and that He can be physically pointed at upwards. And they also affirmed a place for Him.
Which is all negated of Allah. So they said Allah is physically above, and He can be pointed to by the hadith of the slave girl, and that He is in a location, all of which is negated from Allahu Tabaraka wa Ta'ala. Inshallah, we'll stop there. Inshallah, what's today? Oh, Sheikh Walid is coming up next. Today is Saturday. Man, these days all seem the same. So take a half an hour break, and at 8 o'clock, Sayyidi Sheikh Walid al-Rifai will be coming on to continue in his explanation of the creed of Imam Abu Ja'far at-Tahawi. And let us all make dua for our reader who was very patient with our lapse this morning, going over time. So please make dua for her and her family for her patience. She's a great support, and we have become so used to reading with her, and she is excellent at her job that she's doing and benefiting us. So may Allah reward her greatly and pardon me and have her pardon me for going over the time and missing the class this morning. But, sometimes Malika asks questions that make you have to go in. So blame her. Oh my goodness. Naeem Abdullah, did you see what I done to your record? Smashed it. And I didn't smoke any marijuana to do it. I went 3 hours this morning. Did you hear the good news? I beat the Half Your Dean show. Allah. Subhanallah. All right, inshallah, we'll see you with Sheikh Walid Rifai in a half an hour. Barakallahu fikum wa jazakum Allahu khaira. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.